Welcome to episode 23 of the Planning Phase Syndicate Universe Extended. Tonight, we're going to be covering Mandalorian Season 3, episodes 2 and 3, because JJ couldn't make it at some reason last time. With that being said, thank you all for joining us. We decided we're going to do a spoiler class, so if you have not seen Mandalorian Season 3, episode 2 and 3, you might want to bug out. Otherwise, we have an amazing conversation coming to you right here and right now. Joining me tonight is my co-host, JJ of the Planning Phase Syndicate podcast. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing excited, man. I'm ready to talk about some Mando, man. We missed out last week for episode 2, but we're going to cover episode 2 and 3 tonight. So let's go ahead and jump right in, man. So we start off with episode 2, picking up right after where we left off for the end of episode 1. Mando travels all the way out to Mandalore and begins his ascent into the planet there after picking up his R5 unit from Peli. And begins the exploration for it. And we get the first glimpse of Mandalore after the whole apocalypse event, essentially, from the Empire basically bombing it down to smithereens. Now, if you've seen Clone Wars, you've seen like the early Mando days before the rage of the Clone Wars, where Mandalore was a green planet. You know, it had the city domes that were in there. Later on, fast forward to Rebels, it's because of the wars, it's basically become a desert. And now with all the fusion bombs that the Empire's dropped since then, this is like a hard crystallized planet because of all the bombs that were dropped on the surface there. So it looks like a really, really desolate place there from what we've seen before the start of or at the beginning of the Clone Wars there.
So I'm going to stop you real quick. I got a question. You said fusion bombs. That's what they dropped, right?
Yeah.
When are we getting one of those in X-Wing? And can we get one where it's like this big cloud that like has little stilts that sits over top of everything? And if you're underneath this cloud for more than one churn, you get like X amount of damage or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see a bomb that replaces a debris cloud into an asteroid or like a new type of obstacle after you bomb it. Like, that would be kind of cool to see.
I don't know. It just, anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to derail you, but.
Now,
Go on.
One thing that was conspicuously absent for me was the presence of the droids, right? Because we saw in the flashback in I believe Book of Boba, when they're talking about the destruction of Mandalore, we had the droids, the K2 droids that were going around acting as Terminators all over the surface of Mandalore. You would think that the Empire would have left a few acting as sentries on Mandalore, right?
Mm-hmm. I would assume so, but I guess I don't know. Maybe droids take maintenance and nobody wanted to be down there.
Yeah, true. So we get the touchdown. They land right where the city dome would have been, and they proceed forward. And Mando learns that the stories that they used to tell the Mandalorians that the planet was essentially toxic, that they couldn't breathe air, was not true. He's able to actually breathe air freely and able to walk around the area without having to worry about any toxicity in the air. From the previous reports that they had. R5 goes missing, and Mando encounters these dwellers that we get to know used to be the original dwellers of Mandalore that used to be kept out in the fields outside of the reaches of these city domes. And they basically take the droid hostage, and Mando dispatches them with ease. And he decides to venture deep into the underground, where we see the remnants of the city, the capital city that used to be there. It was a heck of a callback, right? Because if you've seen the Clone Wars, you've seen how vast that city dome was, that capital. You know, we get callbacks to the scene of, you know, Obi-Wan walking down the corridor with Satine, and later on with Maul when he's taken over Mandalore, you know, walking through that and see how grandiose that city was, how big and expansive was. And now it's a ghost town, right? It's just like a ruin from a forgotten civilization. Like, that's such a stark contrast of like what the Empire has done to that planet.
Yeah, and I think the big contrast there, right? And it's man. To me, it kind of feels like Mando's got trying to reach that olive branch out, right? Like it's like, hey, why don't you, instead of sulking on your fucking throne, come with me? And I'm so is I I don't know how to say this without spoiling episode 3, but there is some foreshadowing here that happens in this episode that you do not realize is actually
Hmm.
happening until episode 3. And like, as much as like I've kind of like said, hey, Mando has become different, right, than Andor. Like Andor had a lot of that. That was like the crux of how Andor built their episodes. This this is Mando bringing lighthearted humor, creating a more. This is more of the to me. This is more of the original trilogy feel, right? That's how Mando feels to me. It's more of that Western space romp feel than we got with Andor. Andor is like a super serious fucking drama. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, but there's some foreshadowing that's happening here that you don't realize until episode 3, and then you're like, holy shit, like I can't believe that actually happened.
Yeah.
And it's really good. But that's what it feels like Mando is doing, is he's just kind of bringing people. He's trying to bring people together now because he doesn't know what else to do because he lost his purpose, right? We saw that in the first episode. There's a loss of purpose and a weird, creepy, garbage Muppet guy that exists that we still haven't seen, by the way, JJ. We didn't see Muppet garbage
Yeah.
guy in episode 2, if you didn't know.
Yeah, that's true. I have a feeling that he'll make an appearance later on when Mando tries to get reinforcements. So Mando decides to push deeper into the mines, and he comes to an area that looks like basically the remnants of a battle between Mandalorians there. Now, the helmet he picks up and he holds in his hand there kind of has like a whitish hue to it, and the Beskar is pretty messed up, right? For me, it looked like the Super Commando, the Imperial Super Commando Mando helmets that we saw at the last episode or the last season of Rebels. That white Super Commando like look that it had to it. But I don't know about you. Like for me, the way that the armor, the best car was charred and everything, it looks like it was hit by Sabine's weapon, right, from Rebels. That's what it looked like to me.
That to me, that it did do, yes. I hate putting words in Favreau's mouth, but like that's kind of what it felt like. And I don't know if he meant that as a nod, right? Like it's a nod back to the original, or if it just happens to be kind of a coincidence that you and I are leaning a little farther into than we should.
Yeah, exactly. So he picks up the helmet and he ends up falling into the trap of this crazy metallic droid that essentially captures Mando and brings him back into its lair. And what happens is Grogu was away when Mando happened to get captured, and he follows his captor all the way to his area where we encountered this droid, or at least a organic being that had a droid body. And it was doing something weird. It put in a tube and it looked like it was starting to like suck his blood out of Mando, right? That's what it looked like to you.
Yes, it looked like a vampire droid. I don't know why, but yes. I didn't understand that piece of it,
It
personally.
was weird, right? Because it's like, okay, so from what we saw, the only part that's organic about it is the eye, right?
It's the head, yes. Essentially, it's the head. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna call it the head. Whether it's an eye or whatever it is, it's the head of the being.
um and Grogu attempts to rescue Mando. Of course, not able to help him out, and he tells him go get Bo Katan. And Grogu makes his way out, and we saw this part in the previews for the trailers leading to this part here, where Grogu is encountered by one of those cave dwelling beasts, and Grogu uses the Force to basically knock it out and goes forward. Now, this is a subtle little difference here because in the past, whenever Grogu uses the Force, especially to that extent, he gets tired and he ends up falling asleep. And we've now seen a measured growth in Grogu that he's able to use the Force to this extent and not fall asleep. and
All right.
just continues on.
So let me stop you there. I heard a rumor from one of my kids that's because this is set 2 years in the future. That's the rumor I heard. It doesn't make any logical sense to me, but that's
Maybe.
what I had heard. Is that was the rumor again? I don't I have not had time to do any spoiler reading or any of this other shit or anything. So I have no idea. This is just what I was my son came over for dinner the other night and we were talking about Mando and that's when he was like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure this is because they say it's set 2 years in the future." Which
That would
feels
be
wrong.
nice to see.
That
Yeah.
feels wrong to me, but I mean, I guess it could be. I mean, what the fuck did he do for 2 years? Like, come on. I don't think it is. Like, that's why I don't think it is. Like, what did he do?
Yeah.
Like, did they just Disney go, "Oh, we're gonna give you 2 years. Don't worry. Here you go. Merry Christmas."
Also, it's like to me, it's like, you know, Mando would have been like, "Oh, well, I got to go to the mines of Mandalore, and let me go ahead and wait 2 years and then start to gather the stuff." Like, it doesn't make sense to me either. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so we get fast forward. We get Grogu makes it back to the N1 and indicates to R5 that he points to it and tells him that he needs to go see Bo-Katan, and R5 pilots the N1 right back to Castle Kreese in order to get Bo-Katan to help him out. And they leave the N1 there at Castle Kreese and they go in the gauntlet to return back to Mandalore so that way they can go and rescue Din. Quick side note there, I'm totally excited to see yet another pilot for the N1, the Scum N1, which is going to be R5
stop.
with a crew slot.
No.
Yes, we absolutely have to have it.
It goes only straight. No. Hold on. It's Armada like. You have to set all the maneuvers up. You get 3 maneuver dials. You have to set them up 3 turns in advance. There you go.
No, you're not seeing it. So the N1, right, with a crew slot, you can put IG-88D as a crew slot there to get the double calc. You fly with the aggressor. It's the one that gives you the free evade after you boost. There you go, man.
No, stop. Stop. All right.
So
a good point in the chat was made about Grogu training with Luke. So I guess okay, that makes a little bit more sense. He trains with Luke, has the ability to not fall asleep all the time. Therefore, we get that. So I don't buy the 2-year thing, but that's just personally.
Yeah. So we get Bo-Katan arriving towards Mandalore, and Bo-Katan starts reminiscing over the time that she ruled over ever so briefly over Mandalore, and she talks about how the planet used to be, and you can see her kind of like waking up from her comatose, I want to say, basically. You know, she was basically sitting at the castle, you know, sulking, and as she's flying, you could see her personality start to change, right? You know, she's not like that defeated person. She's like reminiscing and kind of getting into it, and she lands the gauntlet over to where they originally got there and leads the she gets guided by Grogu to go over there, and immediately we start to see that Bo-Katan hasn't lost her touch for combat. She immediately identifies those cave dwellers and attacks their nest early, using all the Mandalorian weapons. You know, we get to see the show of the whip, the double pistol grab, or using her jetpack to basically take out all 4 of these cave dwellers really, really quick. And we get to see that she's still that fighter that we've seen from the previous episodes of Mando, as well as the Clone Wars. She's still a very proficient fighter. Fast forward to finally making contact to where Mando's being held, and we see the Mando's captor basically throwing out all the things that Mando had on him, including his blaster and the darksaber that's just left on the floor. And Bo-Katan gets the drop on it, and we see probably one of the best action scenes so far for Mando series. It is Bo-Katan wielding the darksaber and just battling this droid here, and you could see the difference in how Mando holds it and wields the dark saber versus how she does it, and it's just night and day. And she's such a good fighter using the dark saber, and it speaks volumes for her mind frame, right? Because they make mention when Din is originally training with the dark saber, saying that it feels heavy and he's not able to swing it as much, and they make the comment that your mind has to connect with it. You have to have that single focus and drive it through the saber. And for her to pick it up that fast, a person who's supposed to be defeated mentally, she's able to pick it up super fast and just wield it like it's a natural extension of her.
Yeah, which if you think about it, like Mando is very fucking single-minded, dude. Like, I mean, he is. And so it's weird he can't wield this. I feel that there's like a training piece that goes into this, right? Like, like from what we know of Mando's backstory, he doesn't have the same training. Like, Bo-Katan grew up in we'll call it royalty, right? She grew up with different set of training, different set of rules, different set of lifestyle. He grew up in a cult, right? She had it for a while. That's very true, Desi. But I think they're using this as a distinction, right? Like, I think this is foreshadowing the future to me. To me, this is. And it is funny because she picks it up and goes back, like, it's a lightsaber. Like, oh my God, here we go. I'm back in, whatever I had before. And because he's so clunky, it kind of makes you feel like, really, it makes you feel like he should have just given it to her at that point. Like, at that point, it's like, hey, I know you were defeated by it before, but for fuck's sake, like, I mean, you killed this piece of shit, thing that was drinking my blood. Like, you killed this personish, I don't know, this wannabe Grievous. And, I don't know. And I don't know where that's from, but that whole head moving around is from a video game. I guarantee you it's from some video game I played. I know it.
Jedi Survivor, probably we'll see it.
Yeah, in Jedi Survivor. No, I hope not. That would be very crazy if we saw that in Jedi Survivor. I don't know. I'm actually happy and sad at the same time. With Jedi Survivor not coming out till next month, I'm happy because I don't have to worry about it, because I was worried that it was going to come out this week. I'm gone. And like, everybody would just throw all these spoilers all over the place. I already have time blocked off the weekend it comes out. Like, I have it on pre-order, everything. Like, literally, it's on pre-order. It's sitting in my PS5 basket. It's literally waiting for it to come in. And I'm not gonna work for that Friday, and I'm just gonna play it all day, because then I can avoid all the spoilers. But now we're deviating, and
so she's able to free Din, and they're able to essentially drag him away in order for them to rest and recover. Now, here's the part that kind of gets me, right? So obviously he's lost at least a couple of pints of blood. That's not a small amount. And no. he just requires a 5-minute rest, and he's like, okay, well, I'm off to go get baptized now. Like, dude, you lost blood. Like, you can't really just walk that off. Like, you need time and to heal, and not to mention eat, so that we can compose your body from that kind of shock. And yet they just walk it off like nothing. But after that, we have that little bit of a history lesson that Bo-Katan is giving Din as they're walking over to the mines, mainly about how she was a believer at one point in the way.
And it's right here. Like,
yeah,
hello, baby.
Exactly.
You dumbass. Like, where the fuck you go down there? It's right here.
My guess is that I think he cannot read the old Mandalorian language.
No, probably not, because again, it's not his thing, right? Like, it's part of his life, but is it really? Right? Like, and this is where we have not gotten a clear look into his past. Like, we've seen little snippets, but how much is it? Did he struggle growing up? Did he have all these other things going on that detracted from that? We don't know. We don't know those things.
Yeah, exactly. So finally, she's walking down that long hallway, talking about how her dad was a great hero for Mandalore, and Din just like stops and turns to her and respectfully says, this is the way. And just seeing that that admiration that he has for her history, for her family. I think that was like a nice touch for Din to like just recognize that piece, right? And then finally we get to the living waters, which looks like a very dead place. So it's an oxymoron basically. And we see Din basically, begin to strip down his gear and stuff and start walking into the living waters, reciting his vow. And then he falls right in and dips. That was the funniest moment to me because it felt like I don't know if you ever seen Deep Blue Sea with like Samuel L. Jackson, where he's in the middle giving a speech and then the monster comes and grabs him and like he dies. Like I literally thought that was like it kind of reminded me of that kind of moment. And then we see Bo-Katan jump into the living waters after him, and we see that he's falling quite a long way. Like that's a very steep cliff from where he fell, going all the way down. It's like you think they would have put like a sign there that says caution, to that go past this point.
But hold on. That's because I don't think he actually fell. I think when he started to walk in, the mythosaur grabbed him.
I don't know. I think it was quite a bit down before they got to the mythosaur.
Maybe. It could be. And okay, so I got to stop you here because I got to stop you real quick. And I'm sorry. I don't want to deter and like tangent. But if you have read any of the books and all these other things, right, on the planet for Savage and Maul, right? I can't remember the name of that planet. There you go. Dathomir. They have a similar, this is like Star Wars like lore bullshit, but they have a similar area, right? Where they have a mythical creature inside of these waters that nobody really believes, but you have to go here to like get yourself right. And I can't remember which book it was, but there's a whole thing. I think it's the one with Asajj. It's the one with Asajj.
Dark Disciple.
Yes, and I think they do
where
that.
She takes. He has to go hunt him down. Yeah, that's right.
But it's a similar situation to me.
Yeah,
except for Mythosaur has never shown up as a real life thing. Even in Legends, it's kind of like this. It's like
unicorn.
Purgle, like the Purgle were very elusive type creatures, and that not a lot of people had seen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we get Bo-Katan going deep into the waters to try to save Din, and as she's bringing him up, her helmet and like the lights on her helmet like identify like the skin, and then all of a sudden you see this giant eye, and it's very clearly the Mythosaur, and you can probably some of the again it just goes to show like the care and the detail. Bo-Katan basically screaming underwater, and all you see is a bunch of bubbles come out like and then she brings Din up, and she's literally just cannot believe what she's just seen. The tale of the Mythosaur actually being real, and she's dumbfounded, like to the point that she's just in shock on like after what just the sequence of events just happened.
Because what does that mean for her, or how about not her? What does that mean for that religion, right? JJ, it means something, correct? What does it mean?
Yeah, it means that this is the way, essentially. I mean, that's the way to. I think for her, it now validates the whole lore, right? The necessity to wield the Darksaber and to fulfill the prophecy that she was not a believer in, and now she believes in it because she's seen it with her own eyes. And having that piece of information, she's a very smart and clever girl. I think that she can probably use that information for her own benefit.
Yeah, because the Mythosaur, the legend is that they used to tame them and ride them. That was the idea, right? Like that's huge, because not lots of people don't believe that. It's not like a thing people believe. People are like, man, I don't know, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, so to me, it's huge, and all I can say is like it makes me want to go get that tattoo like right on my arm right here. Like I feel like I should go get a Mythosaur tattoo now, because now we know they're real, so I can get one. I don't know. Charles would probably be like, "Well, you're not a fucking Mandalorian because you play CIS all the time." But
Django's a Mando.
that's true. Yeah. Bo-Katan's a Mando and CIS. I don't know. Anyway, um, sorry.
Just put a picture of yourself wearing Mandalorian armor, riding the Mythosaur on the tattoo.
You know what I'm tempted to actually get
What?
is like a full Mando suit. like it's a lot. It's a lot of money. I
Yeah.
looked at it, but I was thinking about it. Pretty
Heck
hardcore.
yeah, man.
Like we get taxes, right? Like we get these frivolous. I don't know.
Just where it's Worlds.
My wife would be so pissed. I can't get it before Worlds. Maybe in 2024. My wife would be so pissed off if I got that. So anyway, we go back, right, and obviously the episode basically ends with her saving him, and basically them not even really talking about this. It's a whole thing. And they go into episode 3, and you're just like, holy shit. You're left with the mythosaur is
real.
Technically not extinct. And if this does not come back up in the next 5 episodes, I will stop watching this show. Period. Just so you know.
So you're saying right before the season finale?
That's fine. If it comes up in the season finale, I'm good. If it does not, and we got teased with this, I'm done. Fuck them. That's bullshit. Like, do not tease me about something that's from Legends. Now you're making part of canon and expect me to be okay with you not, like, let's have a conversation about this, you know?
And that's the end of Planning Phase Syndicate's After Hours Mando show.
Yeah, we're moving back to bad.
So yeah, episode 3, we start off right off where episode 2 left off. You know, we have Bo-Katan just dumbfounded and very cleverly asks Mando if he remembers seeing anything while under the water, and Mando just states that he just fell into the water and just didn't see anything on his way down because it was a long way down. And Bo-Katan just keeps to herself what she sees, what she's seen inside of the waters there. Part of me wonders, like, for a hot second, like, did she do that intentionally because she wasn't sure what she saw, or she's trying to just keep that information to herself?
I think she is keeping it to herself for the pure fact of not jinxing something, right? And her having to come to this, understanding of what life is. Like the armor said, we shall see the songs of the eons or something like that, right? From the past foretold the mythosaur rising up. And all of a sudden, here's a mythosaur. She does not believe this exists. Here it is. This is a foundational belief of hers that is like she's not able to grasp. And some of that's because they come back, they get in a ship, and as soon as they leave, they get attacked. Which, how the fuck does anybody know where they're at, right? Unless one of them is being tracked. But before we even get into that, you got to think. She doesn't want to tell Mando because she does not want to feed into his like cultish delusional bullshit that she has countered for, I don't know how long, right? Like she told him back in season 2, no, no, this is not true. Like, come on, baby. Like, like I grew up this way. And some of me is actually a little disappointed, and some of me really likes it, right? Like, is like part of me, like I came from like a really religious, like growing up that way, and I no longer really believe in that type of stuff. And like, if something like that happened to me, it would like it. I could tell you, it throws your whole life into chaos. It would.
Yeah.
And I think in her world, she's trying to grasp with, I grew up one way. I didn't believe this stuff. And all of a sudden, here you are. Like, this is something we never gotten. But for Christ's sake, you live in a world with force. So I don't know. Like, we don't have that. Like, I've never seen anybody use their mind to move something. And if you can, meet me at Adepticon. There is $1,000 cash in it for you. If you can actually do.
That'd be awesome. So they start heading their way back up after Mando acquires a vial of the living waters as proof of his quote unquote baptism. Although, side note, are you really baptized if you fall into the water accidentally?
No. And are you baptized if you fucking have your helmet on and your full clothes on? No. You have to wear a special robe, damn it. I had to put on a robe when I got baptized. What the fuck? Like, come on, man. I want to see a Mando robe. I want to see it fucking green and brown with a big ass symbol on each side. Maybe a couple little horns on your head that you have to wear to look stupid. I don't know. Yeah, you're not.
And do they have to eventually, when Grogu gets, baptized under the creed, does he have to go back down to the same area to go get?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Why are we not making Mando or a Grogu a Mando? Like, what is going on? He's wearing the vest. Why is man? Why are they? Why? I don't know. And maybe it's because you can't fit those ears in a Mando helmet. Is that why? Like, would they have to make a special Mando helmet that has like ears so that the Yoda ears can come out the sides?
That'd be dope, actually. Yeah.
If so, okay, hold on. Can we put predictions? I'm going to say it doesn't happen this season, but that would be dope if it did. That'd be hilarious if Grogu gets a Mando helmet.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Actually, I would love to see the shape of it just to see how they protect the ears, man, for real. So we get we see them head back up to the surface, and then immediately they start getting attacked by the Empire, where we see a bunch of a squadron of TIE interceptors now that are starting to attack them. So they jump into the into Bo-Katan's gauntlet, and they start taking off and start trying to evade these TIE interceptors. Now, immediately when I see this, I'm like, okay, so they're obviously TIE interceptors. They don't have any hyperdrives or anything like that, which means that they have to have a carrier nearby, right? Maybe like a small cruiser. There's only 6 of them, so that it would make sense. That'd be like maybe an Arquitans or something like that. And they begin their they're sent off planet, off world, to try to make it over to Castle Kreese in order for Mando to get his N1, trying to evade all these TIE fighters on the same way there. Bo-Katan, just being an expert pilot, I don't know how she's only an I-4 in X-Wing, just evading these TIE fighters that are going in there. And we get a really cool scene where they open the drop seat bay, and Mando just basically free falls going towards the N1 starfighter at Castle Kreese while they're going in there, leaving Grogu behind, as well as R5 in the gauntlet, while Bo-Katan is evading these shots. So we see Mando take off and start picking off these TIE fighters, this squadron of TIE interceptors rather, from pursuit on the gauntlet there. And we get basically a Top Gun maneuver where Bo-Katan is like, well, I guess there's one left. I'm going to need to turn my forward arc and take these guys on head on. And she does this spin maneuver by essentially raising one of the foils, which I didn't know you could do, just one. I thought that when they opened, they both had to open at the same time, because that's how we've always seen it. It both in Rebels and Clone Wars, right, with those gauntlets. But she's basically just opens one of the fins for the gauntlet, forcing it to turn around, and then she takes that front shot into the last TIE interceptor, like eliminating that particular squad, which is such a great piece of cinema. But at the same time, I'm like, a ship that obviously going fast enough to keep enough distance from a TIE interceptor, doing a hard stop like that, there's got to be structural damage done to that ship from that.
No, okay, hold on. I'm going to stop you. You've obviously not been a daredevil. Have you ever driven a stick shift vehicle, JJ?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever flown down a road or in a parking lot, typically?
The highest I've ever gone is 75 on it. I didn't have much space.
All right. Well, that's pretty fast. I'm just saying, have you ever driven with a stick shift and then thrown it into neutral, hit your emergency brake, spun your wheel, and done a turnaround maneuver? If you have not, you have not lived. And if you want to come to Michigan and bring me a stick shift, I'll teach you how to do it.
Okay. There's one thing doing it with a smaller vehicle, right? That's light enough that could do that without much thing. It's another thing trying to do it with a semi truck
No,
and trying to turn that sucker.
no,
Come on.
I disagree with you. No, because no, I disagree with you because it didn't come to a stop. It flipped up one of its wings, which I would like a new card for the. By the way, for you X-wing philophile or whatever the hell we call you lovers of X-wing. I want to get a new card that says partial swivel wing, where you just throw one of your wings up, and you cannot do the 180 rotate. You can do a 90-degree rotate and then take maybe a strain or something and do a 180 or something like that. But I want to see it because I'm telling you, like, I've done that in a car to some extent, and I think it's a great maneuver. Like, I don't see this outside of the norm. I guess I don't see this outside of the norm at all. At all. Like, this is, to me, whatever. Like, yep, they threw one wing, they did a turnaround maneuver, they said, "Hey, I got these two things for you right here. Which one do you want, baby?"
Yeah. Yeah. The other highlight of it was Mando racing into the atmosphere and then doing the K turn in midair and then doing a
Yeah.
proton torpedo right down the
Yeah.
center.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was freaking great.
I do not
Um,
want an N1 in Scum that can do a 4 or 5K and take a target lock. No. No, thank you. You do not get, I don't even care if you get too stressed. You can't have that. No.
okay. So X-wing talk. Imagine now Mando with his original ability, because obviously he was converting results into focus results and then spending a focus. Can you imagine Mando with an APT turning blanks from an APT into a focus and then spending a focus to like maximize an APT shot?
No. I'd hate it. It would just, I would immediately play Scum again. Actually, I
Yes.
play Scum already now, so give it to me now. Give it to me.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the other part while we're on X-wing is, in this sequence here, the only time the gauntlet is ever to shoot out the rear is when Mando is in the gunner seat
No.
shooting out the rear, and then after he left, the gauntlet lost its ability to return fire out the rear because Bo-Katan was piloting and could only use the front guns to shoot. So to me, that means that going forward for X-wing, the any ship that has a front and rear arc cannot shoot out the rear unless it has a dedicated gunner in that slot to perform that attack. I think that should
Then
be
then you
the
have to
thing
say
to
the
do.
same thing about a bow tie arc. You have to say the same thing about Han Solo. When do you ever see Han Solo shooting out the front and the back? Never, unless they have a gunner. Period.
I'm okay with that. I mean, most days, you see Ray Gunner on there, or you'll have Bistan in the gunner slot for the Falcon. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Then, if that's the case, right? If that's the case, then you have to either increase the points on the ship to allow for the cost of a gunner. No, it just, I don't know. I don't think it works. I guess we'd have to go back and watch a fire spray, whether it can shoot the front or the back without a gunner or not.
Yeah,
Fine.
baby.
You want
In
it for a gauntlet? Whatever. I don't give a shit.
in Clone Wars, right? You have Jango Fett flying the fire spray, and he has Baby Boba on the guns.
But when you see Boba Fett in a fire spray, is anybody on the guns, or does he just shoot out the front and the back and
Bosk.
just rotate it?
It's obviously Bosk.
You don't know that. You're so full of shit right now. You're seeing brown. My drink looks like what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
This is you right here.
Oh man.
No.
So
Stop trying to kill my fire spray. Stop. Just cause you're jealous. You don't even need it in your faction. You have fucking Boy Vader.
all right. So
And
after
Mauler.
that sequence of the dogfight there, we suddenly hear a bunch of explosions going on, and we see a squadron of TIE bombers basically leveling House Kreese, which is actually a really sad moment because it's like a historical castle, and it just gets blown to bits by a couple of proton bombs or fusion bombs, I guess, that they drop on top of her castle, just utterly destroying it. And we get that scene of Bo just staring at it, and they're like, they blew up my castle, and the actual pain of it. And then we take a look at the radar, and there's a massive amount of TIE interceptors now coming to intercept them. And I'm like, okay, at this point now we're dealing with a much larger Imperial force here. And Bo-Katan makes that remark that I guess they didn't appreciate her stealing the Imperial's like supplies, I guess. Um, do you think there's an established base where all these fighters are, or is this like a fleet that's hanging around there?
I feel it's more of a fleet. I feel that I don't know, and that's the part that pisses me off because technically we should see like a super star destroyer or even some sort of a Ghazi or something like that, like out there. Okay, not super star destroyer. You're right, ISD. You would think one of those would be there. And maybe they just don't want to bring it in because they don't want to deal with that piece of it. But like to me, that's something like that would be there. I don't think they're from a base in the area because I think if there was a base in the area, right? Bo would know about this and would just not either be there or go deal with it. Like, I think that's how that would work. Like, she wouldn't just be like, oh, there's an Imperial base I don't care about because nobody knows I'm here. She would never do that. Like, that's dumb. So to me, they came in, they were shipped in, or they flew in, one of the two. I have no idea which. But to me, it would say that there's some sort of a larger ship that brought them. Like that's how normally it would work. And I
See,
will be honest, I'm sad that I don't see that ship. Like maybe it's this stupid garbage monster guy. Maybe garbage monster's the one bringing these people in.
no, he had the crappy R1As in his fleet there. So like it's to me it has to be, I think it's a fleet, right? Because and it has to be more than ISD because the ISD doesn't have that kind of hangar space to have all those type of ships in there to deploy at once. It has to be an ISD and another ship that can carry, hell, even maybe two Star Destroyers or a Star Destroyer and a Quasar would be fantastic to see in live action.
It can't be a
Um,
Star Destroyer. It can't be a Super Star Destroyer. It can't.
no,
I
I'm
don't
not
think
saying
they
super.
exist.
I'm saying an ISD, just a
Okay.
regular
All
Star
right. All
Destroyer.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I just don't think there's enough of them left, and I don't think there's enough people left
to man
to
them.
do this. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking. This is a partial piece, and people are scared. And if we go back to the Resistance show, which I know a lot of people don't like, but if you go back to the Resistance show, it took them a while to get FO up and running,
yeah,
and it was not the same it was not the same structure as Empire
the Empire.
was
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, definitely. Because you see that that the FO or the First Order basically took enslaved children and basically grew them up or trained them since they were kids in order to be their fighters for them.
Yeah, exactly. Either which way, it is pretty amazing that they had all those ships there, right? Like I mean, destroying it. And the best part is Mando's like, hey, ignore this. You will not live. Ignore this. Come on, let's
Yeah,
get out of here. Like,
and this
and
is
trust me.
a callback to Worlds. If you're jousting a bunch of TIE interceptors with a gauntlet, you need to run.
Yeah,
Don't joust.
don't joust. It doesn't work. Don't take a reinforced token. It will not help you. They
So
will
yeah,
roll
so they
natties. That's what happens.
exactly, yeah, they'll roll natties exactly. So so then they jump into hyperspace, and then we cut into the crux of this particular episode, which is called the Convert. We get to see the scientist from season 2 and 1, basically the one who's working on Grogu, making a speech in the same arena where Palpatine was speaking with Anakin in episode 3, talking about how he's gone through the rehabilitation process for the New Republic, and how he wants his work to benefit the New Republic and stuff, and talks about his work was used for evil purposes and stuff. And you can see the naivety of this scientist, right? Because he's obviously dedicated to his work and not necessarily the ideals behind it, right? um, and he still believes that his work could have good benefits for it, except that it was just taking out of its intention, its good intention to work for nefarious purposes for the empire. And of course, he's greeted by the elite of Coruscant, that's like interested in his work and like just congratulating him, and they basically don't care who's in charge. Like you get to see probably the first real look at what the New Republic is like post Empire, right? Like the elites are there in Coruscant. They don't basically.
Oh no. Yeah, so what you're seeing is you're seeing a whole bunch of you're seeing a completely different version of what we would have expected with the rebels winning, right? You're getting something that's not similar. It's not it's not what you imagine. And it's like if you go back to, like, and you look, watch episode 1, 2, and 3, if you've read any of the books, you can see how the Republic structured things and how they had all these different pieces for it, right? It's completely different because now it's fractured. Now, like, and again, a lot of this, like, to me, a lot of there's all these books you should read. And I know that Disney doesn't always like account for these books per se, but there's like an amazing Leia book where basically they out Leia as being Vader's daughter, you know. And if you've never read that book, like, it brings so much more home to how the resistance was created, that essentially the rebels became the new empire, became the old republic, and they had to fight back again because um politics and all
Yeah.
these people are just horrible. Like, this is why government does fail to some extent. And going back into that, you get to see they have a reconciliation program where they
Hmm.
repurpose you. You're repurposed to come back in, and you don't get to come back in as what you did. You get to be a desk clerk for a science
Yeah.
org, right? Like, come on. Like, that guy had talent. Like, I'm not saying we should resurrect the cloning program, but
This guy will make
hear me out.
excellent work material, desk
Yeah.
work material.
Like, this guy could do more than just be, I don't know. He's more than what you think he is.
Yeah. And for a hot second, I actually thought that we were going to see a cameo of Mon Mothma, a little bit older, from the Andor series. I was actually kind of hoping that we would have actually seen her, but she's probably a Hosnian Prime at this point, which is the current capital of the New Republic.
Yeah. That would be cool if we see that. So, as they progress the story, and this is the part where a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, like, what is going on?" Like, we now get the story about a refugee. Essentially, that's what this guy is. He's a refugee. He's coming in. He's been decommissioned. He's been given a new purpose. That's what they're doing with anybody that has value. And this is where the resist, or the new republic, right? Like, it feels too empire-ish because they're repurposing people and giving them new jobs, right? But again, anyway, so you got this guy, he's gotten a new job, he doesn't like it. He meets up with other fellow officers who are all drinking. Maybe we shouldn't be drinking, I guess. And he like meets up with these people, they start talking to him, and he meets this one lady that he knows, which I personally thought she died. I didn't know she existed still. Like, I thought she
Hmm.
died
Yeah. Yeah, me
when
too.
they blew up all the Moff Gideon shit. But she's not. She's not dead. She's alive. She's
Yeah.
definitely alive.
Now, my question is, right, she obviously she sees him and she has this really weird, like, she basically latches onto him. And, from the get-go, you get that feeling that her intentions are nefarious. Obviously, she's not there to help this guy out. And she's like taking advantage of the naivety of this guy. And she eventually convinces him that, hey, you can still continue your work. We can go into decommission ISD to grab your lab materials, and we could just go from there. Um, so we see through the very very poor like system that the New Republic has set up for this guy. They basically interview him every so often, asking him, do you feel any negative feelings towards your new government? Which is the funniest thing. And we get to see that he feels his frustration that his talents are not being put to good use, and that eventually leads him to agree to go on this expedition outside of the zone to go to this decommission ISD to go get the mobile lab instrument so that way he can continue his work. Um, and then he gets caught by by the guards that are there, and we see that she was acting as an agent for the New Republic, and she essentially sets him up to take the fall for this for the operation that they just took part. Um, my thing is, like, obviously she intentionally decided to do this. My question is, did she do it because he had information that could have potentially put the Empire or the First Order? I'm assuming that she's working for the First Order, or at least set up the First Order. Or is she trying to protect Moff Gideon and what he was doing?
My theory is is that she's part of the Moff Gideon, and they're part of the First Order. So if you go back to, again, this like Leia book that I read, and and some of the other squadron type books for the Resistance, there's a movement starting the First Order, and this movement that starts the First Order is essentially going forth and creating like a somewhat nefarious ability. Like Sloane did that, right? Like Sloane, and I'm actually surprised we haven't seen Sloane yet. But Sloane did that when we got, what's his name? God, I can't remember his stupid name. Um Mr. Bones's handler. Wexley, what is his name? Temin. There you go.
Temin Wexley. Yeah.
When we get Mr. Bones, if we get a Mr. Bones appearance, by the way, we're gonna spend a whole episode talking about Mr. Bones because that's my favorite fucking Star Wars character ever. Like, just so you know, heads down, that's my favorite character, other than Thrawn. I like Thrawn, but anyway, so we know there's all these other things that can go into it, and Sloane shows up in other ways. Like, to me, she's part of this newfound underground resistance. Like, my theory is Pelp had a backup plan. He had a plan B that says, hey, you're going to resurrect me, and here's how you're going to create your whole divergence, right? And you're going to set up your whole empire before resurrecting. So my theory is that, like, as soon as the empire started to go down, and Pelp knew, because Pelp had I don't remember what they call it in the universe, but Pelp had that ability to foresee things. Like, that was what made him super fucking powerful. He's foreseeing that there's a possibility he's going to die, blah blah blah. He's going to come back. That's why he was obsessed with cloning and bringing himself back. That there's this backup plan that's already been in place, and Moff Gideon was just a pawn in this whole plan. Like, so, long story short, yes, I think she's helping Moff Gideon and that sect, but I think it's much bigger than him. Like, I think he, again, is just this pawn in the scheme of things, long scheme of things.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do. I mean, the that part of the lore, like, it kind of intrigues me, right? Because we don't really know yet, other than just a quick bit from Poe in episode 9 on how Palpatine returns, and I think we're starting to see like the pieces that are leading to how Palpatine ended up coming back as the big bad for episode 9. Hopefully, in retrospect, maybe that makes that movie a little bit better. I'm hoping so, but I'm I'm just hoping that at least we get that answer there. for it, and we end that piece with basically the scientist getting his mind fried as she increases the intensity to 5, and just basically leaves this guy as a vegetable with his mind white essentially. And then we get back to the jump out of hyperspace for Bando and Bo-Katan arriving over to where the Mandalorian Coven was. And of course, the first person he sees is Paz Vizsla, basically challenging Mando. He's like, "Hey, get out of here, you!" He's like,
Go away.
You're unbeliever now because you taken out your helmet." And they have this whole challenge thing for whether or not he's actually bathed. And I actually found it interesting that the water that the armor is used is actually the living waters that they use to actually temper the metal when they're building the armor, the Beskar armor for the Mandalorians. Makes me wonder how she's able to transport that so easily from place to place. Because right, this is like the third move that they've done so far, right?
Yeah, at least that we know. It's probably more, but that's what we know is this the third. Yeah. Which is crazy. How do they have that much living water, right? Like how do they
Yeah,
even get that?
exactly.
But I think the bigger thing here, right, is that the bigger thing is he gets in there, they do the whole thing. He tells her, and this is the precursor, right? Which I knew once he said it, I was like, fuck this shit. But he immediately says, "Hey, my advice is you don't take your helmet off and you don't tell them anything about that." And she goes in there, they do the whole conversation. The armor is like, "Oh, you haven't taken your helmet off?" "No, I have not. Here's my proof." Blah 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 blah. She goes, "Yeah, I can see that it's him." And then he goes, "And by the way, she hasn't either." And then, they talk about bathing in the waters and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, like the armor is like, "Well, if you haven't taken your helmet off and you've bathed in the waters, you are now like part of our cult."
Redeemed.
And like
Yeah,
she just
exactly.
sits there, and like I can see her face underneath there. That's the worst part about this whole thing. I see her face going like,
Yeah,
just be befuddled. Like, fuck, I fell into this. But then at the same token, she's got the whole mythosaur thing in her back head, and she doesn't know what to do. It's a whole thing for her.
yeah, exactly. And I think, and that's the great thing about this, right? It's just the body expressions without seeing the face.
Yes.
You could see her going from like, "Oh man, I can't believe this happened," to "I think I can turn this into my advantage now." Like just that subtle shift in her expression, her in the way that she's like expressing like the body language through it. That was just such a neat little tidbit that they did at the end there, like when they're all celebrating, like this is the way, we're gonna go back and everything, and take care of everything. I'm totally excited now to see how where they go from here, right? Like I want to see a full force of Mandalorians now, Fang fighters and all, to take on that Imperial remnant that's there.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it ends, and we're gonna stop there. We've spent enough time, but like I'm excited. I'm very happy with where it's been. I think this episode, I think 3 was better than 2 personally. Um and I would say it rivals 1. And I don't know. I really liked episode 3 a lot, but I like all the weird side story type things and all of that.
Yeah.
I will say I don't know what the hell is going to happen Wednesday, because I got to message John now to be like, "Hey, have you watched The Mandalorian?" Because if you haven't, I need to watch this before I go. Because by the way, I'm gonna watch this. Like it's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna stay up to 3 a.m. on Tuesday to like watch The Mandalorian and Bad Batch. And like so, like I have to have a whole conversation with him. I gotta figure it out, because when I get there, I need to get my badge. I want to hang out with people. So like my theory is I'm gonna wait, not watch Bando or Bad Batch at all, and then I'm gonna go hang out with a bunch of people, and then it'll be like 11 o'clock, and that's gonna be like my wind down to Worlds, and then I'll go to bed at midnight, get up at 7, go play in the LCQ, get in top 16, say, "Hey, I'm gonna wear my this is for JJ shirt that I bought." Um, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can have a watch party at Nick Sperry's house. That'd be great.
Yeah. I should message Nick, be like, "Hey, buddy, what do you want to do?" I wish I could go out there earlier. It'd be nice to go out there on Tuesday, but I have so much stuff I got to do when I got kids, and it's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
no
gonna work.
doubt.
Too much going on. But anyway, thank you all for joining us for our University Extended Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2 and 3. We will be back. We will not be doing the Mando episode till Monday, probably. We're going to do Worlds coverage Monday for our normal X-Wing podcast, Planning Phase Syndicate. And then we will be back with our Universe Extended conversation about Episode 4 of Mando. With that being said, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week. Have a good night. And if you're going to Worlds, hit us up. We'll see you. Not JJ because he's a loser and doesn't want to go. But the rest of us, you can come hang out with me and see me. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.